Everyone loves Dracula. The media for Dracula has been spread around and reused and redone, rebranded, whatever the fuck for years now, right? One of my favorite animes, Hellsing Ultimate, is pretty much just about fucking Dracula. So this fucker is quite literally, or should I say Crimson fucker, is quite literally everywhere. So when I saw some clips and people talking about a new Dracula love story sort of movie, I was interested, especially during spooky season, a mix of a romance and spookiness with Dracula in the mix. Why the fuck not? So I did watch Dracula, A Love Tale, and honestly, I enjoyed the movie. It's not a bad movie. I actually, especially its tragic romantic aspects to it. Does the movie have a crazy budget? Fuck no. But they did a great job with what they got. Nothing looked cheap. There was actual like passion to it. Practical effects were pretty good, and the powers and effects were really interesting as well. The take on vampires here is interesting as well, because they seem to be like a weaker version of the vampires we know. At some point they have stronger than average man's strength with semi regeneration, and of course a good bit of speed too. They can even be captured, but it was interesting how they have that aspect of seduction, trying to get people to fall into their desires, being a core aspect of their vampire manipulation, right? When it comes to a few things. So I will kind of explain what I liked about the movie and what I disliked about the movie. So prepare for spoilers. So I did not really have many complaints about the movie, but I would have loved more scenes of Vlad's life as the Impaler. Him killing all those soldiers and putting their heads on spikes was a nice touch, but I would have loved to see more of his fall, right? Of being the Impaler after the death of his wife, and see him progressively get worse. I don't think there is anything I don't like in this movie, because it is a different take on Dracula that I enjoy. I love the fact that Vlad had a dragon style armor and helmet, cool. And I love the fact that they tried to show his brutality and his softness as well, especially towards his wife. His offense to God after what happened to his wife, who was killed technically by him, but she was being attacked by Turks, which was crazy, and it showed us his reasons why he is offending God and why God is punishing him by not granting him death. It's very interesting that the fact that vampires are a thing because God denies specific people death, so they just become fucking vampires, right? And with this denial, they gain supernatural powers to be said vampires, which is, I don't know why that would happen, but you know, whatever, right? Whatever. So Vlad, who is waiting for God to reincarnate his wife, and what's kind of funny is that his version of enhanced vampiric seduction is just using a unique perfume that he went around the world trying to perfect to have women flock to him. But then he realized that this would take fucking forever. So he just started making more vampires to look around the world for him for the love of his life, which is, you know, really nice. But, you know, it's pretty crazy that I think a majority of his victims of his vampires that he turned personally were all women, from what I can see and what I noticed, just so they can look for the love of his life, which, you know, isn't crazy at all, but makes sense in that sort of era of the world, because looking for another woman in you know, women, like, you know, it's a lot of thinking to do, but in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense for that era, right? I do think they did really well to express his love and desperate attempts to find his wife, reincarnated into a new life and trying to find ways to make it more efficient, until he finally just lets his servants do fucking everything and wallows in his own pity and memories. Him going to her grave and sleeping on top of it, even when there's snow on top of him, is really fucking sad. Him trying to kill himself, jumping off his fucking castle over and over again, trying to die, but being denied, was really fucking heartbreaking. It was kind of funny when he was turning women into vampires at a party and no one fucking ran away, right? There was no survival instincts anywhere, right? I think either he was going so fast that they couldn't react, or no one had any survival instincts at this fucking party. So yeah. Yeah. He has never stopped loving his wife, not even after 300 fucking years. And he has stopped, and he hasn't stopped. I can't fucking speak. Until some lawyer came over asking Vlad to sell one of his properties. He got too curious, discovered Vlad in his coffin. The lawyer finds himself strung up. Then it ends with having the fiance of this lawyer shown to Vlad. Surprise, it is the reincarnation of his wife, who he then gets ready to meet her. Because at this point in the movie, he looks like Anakin's ballsack post Mustafar. So yeah, he looks fucking terrible here. So he goes to this nunnery, or this church or whatever. And I think he just uses his powers and his perfume to bring all the holy women to him, and corrupt them, and drinks all their blood to be young again, which is fucking insane. Not gonna lie, how this is done is kind of fucking funny, with all the women swirling him around, turning into a tower of women climbing over each other to be the first to get drunk by him. And it looked fucking funny and goddamn dramatic. Like it was kind of stupid. And it was just crazy. I think that's just the style they have for this movie, that this is just him. This is just him. Time all this shit is happening, a priest who is a fucking Van Helsing, I know, right? Who has been hunting vampires, but gets called because the step cousin or cousin of the queen at the time was sent to a psych ward. He comes in and realizes they captured a fucking vampire. A vampire who was getting married, but when she saw a priest, she basically flipped the fuck out, and she at the same time found the reincarnation of Vlad's wife before that. So it was just very poor timing to freak out at the time, right? So it was all pretty cool, and anytime she would talk in these scenes, her voice would echo, seemingly trying to use her powers to seduce and entrance the men in the room. I thought this was like a neat effect, and loved how scientific and brutal this priest is. But man, point blank showing the doctor that the supernatural exists by exposing this vampire to light and having her skin kind of melt off was pretty goddamn metal by the Van Helsing priest. It's pretty goddamn crazy. But yeah, they would coincidentally meet the reincarnated wife in the next room, who goes by Mina now, after realizing they need to find the woman this vampire's master is looking for. Some things in this story are pretty convenient for the sake of the story's runtime, but at least they gave us a decent explanation why she is there, being a friend of said vampire who was getting closer to her, and trying to make sure she's learning more about her until she could go get Vlad. But yeah, she basically also says that she feels like a woman out of time, which is pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting that they have this aspect of her feeling like she doesn't belong in this era, which is pretty neat. Eventually the vampiress gets freed by Vlad, who rewards her with a pretty boy assistant, because of course. Of course. The vampiress takes Mina out, and she meets Vlad, who, when they see each other, flashes of her in the past and present happen, which was neat. And they kind of have this sort of connection as they go around all night at this sort of fair, and they have a great time together, apparently. Eventually he takes her home, and his words and his little actions are reminding her of her past life, and says, of course, that she feels like a woman out of time. But when she does go to her room, she sees her fiance, the priest, the doctor, and wonders what the fuck is going on. And then she spills the beans on Dracula and how she's already met him, right? So when she gets a moment to herself, she plays again the music box that Vlad gives to her, and her memories start rushing back. And then that's when Vlad shows up. They eventually talk, and he reveals to her that she is his wife. And surprisingly, honestly, her memories of her past life return, and they leave for their castle with the priest, fiance, and doctor wanting to rescue her, right? So to get back to where this lawyer wanted to go, they asked the lawyer, who was already hurt, that can he take them back to the castle. So they needed some reinforcements. So they go to where the vampiress's fiance is at, and she's there trying to go ahead and get some blood, some penis, or maybe both, whatever, right? And then they bust in, they see her, she starts pushing them around, and then she gets killed, she gets stabbed or whatever, and then she gets her head lopped off. And then using this opportunity, they go to the fiance and say, hey, we need some soldiers, and we need to go ahead and invade this castle to rescue so and so, right? So that's what he did, because vampires are here and they're a fucking danger, I gotta fuck them up. So that's what they did. So they decide to go ahead and invade this castle, and the soldiers meet the fucking gargoyles. And honestly, the gargoyles are so fucking cool. Like the way they're animated, or maybe like it's practical effects, maybe a mixture of both, but it's pretty goddamn neat. Like the gargoyles are like these silly little guys who help Dracula, and it doesn't seem like Dracula mistreats them either or is a fucking asshole. They're like his little minions who he cares about, that assists him, and then being goofy little guys one scene and then fucking up the soldiers in the next. It's just fucking great. It also doesn't help that Dracula, when he is sword fighting and killing soldiers from the Turks to these British soldiers, he fucks them up. Like the choreography is pretty good when it comes to sword fighting here. This motherfucker was using environmentals. It reminded me of Assassin's Creed 3 and 4 combat, because he was fucking these guys up. He was using their guns. He was using the bayonets. He was going fucking crazy. Now, when it came to the priest being the only one standing with a blade to his neck, he says God sent him there to save him, which confuses Vlad, as he says that he has been at war with God for centuries. But what really messed him up was that when the priest said he wasn't at war with God, that he was basically at war with himself and did all those things to himself, it kind of fucked with Vlad's mind state for a good bit, right? Then he goes to help his wife kill the soldiers there, trying to get in the room. Then it's over. He tells him that if he truly loved her, he would not let her be a vampire and be doomed for eternal damnation by God, and they will be hunted forever, and things will never be the same, and so on and so forth. So if he truly believed in God and heaven, and allowed himself to be staked, to repent, to be forgiven, and to give his wife a pathway to heaven, he should allow that. And then after this is done, the priest leaves. Vlad turns again into a fucking nutsack, and he basically turns to dust in front of his wife. She screams in sadness, and his soul gets brought to God. The fucking end. It's not as clear cut as what I'm saying, but I'm trying to leave some room for some dramatic. If you guys go ahead and watch this, it is a tragic love story for Dracula and his wife, Elisabetta, which on paper sounds a bit bare, but the actor for Vlad did a really great job selling his love for her with the good material they added to show his life, his loss, his frustrations, his anger, his desperation, his love for Mina, or Elisabetta, right? And the fact that Mina remembered Vlad and everything, right, really sells on their romance, to the point where you root for them to live forever with each other. That like to the point where you want this to happen. The ending is pretty much bitter and tragic, and it goes in theme with Dracula and his story, especially Bram Stoker's Dracula, as the whole story is tragic, but those little glimpses, both Vlad and Elisabetta are together, really brings the movie all together, right? I do honestly recommend it. It's pretty fun. It's a good movie if you want some good romance, if you're not in the mood for something super scary, but like, sort of supernatural-esque, I guess. Do I think it's the best movie? No, but it certainly is interesting. So I'll give it like a 7 out of 10. A decent watch for both men and women and couples together, but I'll leave that to you guys to enjoy the movie, right? And give your opinions on it in the comments below. If you watched it, let me know of your opinions on it. If you plan to watch it, what do you guys think of like the little previews and my video as well, TikTok, wherever, like, yes, it's just, the movie's just fun. I can't fucking speak. I've been talking for like a good minute recording. Yeah, honestly, the movie's interesting. It's not like the most powerful version or most influential version of Dracula, but it's a nice version of Dracula, which is, pretty fun to watch, right? At least to me. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys next time. Stay safe and healthy, and healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically. See you guys next time. Peace.